Three, two, one. Welcome to the SaaS Pulse Show. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of SaaS Talent. And I'm always excited, but I'm unbelievably excited today because I have one of the people in the Philly scene that basically kind of started tech, started the tech startup scene, right? PSL, Tracey, we didn't even talk about that, but I have Tracey Welson Rossman. She is the founder and CEO of Journal My Health, and she is the chief marketing officer at Chariot Solutions. So it's great to have you on the show, Tracey.
Michael, thanks for having me. It's always great to talk to you, and thanks for your support.
Yeah, so what I was saying, Tracey has an unbelievable backstory, everybody who's listening. I mean, you go back to when there were a couple people in PSL. I mean, it was like a handful of people. That's Tracey. PSL, for those listening, Philadelphia startup leaders. Tracey was one of the founders, right? And she's got an unbelievable backstory. So what I always like to start with is the superhero backstory, the background and journey that led you to where you are today. And we were talking in the pregame, Tracey, about that. I think you have an unbelievable story to tell. So tell the audience about your background that led you to where you are today with Journal My Health and Chariot.
We'll try and make this short because it's a lot. So, I started out in retail, which is, there's pieces of my retail background and marketing background that sort of bleed in even so far away. From there, I went into advertising sales, purchased my own existing business and ran that before entrepreneurs was an entrepreneurial thing.
Right.
And then got into tech with what had been not the early version of the team for Chariot Solutions. So
Mhm.
Chariot Solutions is headed into its 22nd year,
Amazing.
which is crazy. We were a team that had been together at this other company, which was a software accounting system
Mhm.
that was beginning to change the software into Java. And it was Java, I think it was 1.4.
Love it.
It might have been 1.2. So, it's so far up in terms of the, what number it is at this point. I don't even know. But we were bringing the West Coast style of, tech teams
Mhm.
before it was a thing on the East Coast.
Right.
And that really was about working with smaller teams who
Mhm.
were concentrated, looking at open source before really open source was a thing here.
Right.
Um, working and that open source standpoint, I think, is really important for us to understand because it was not only just about how you developed new frameworks and new systems, but it was also about culture.
Right.
So I'm bringing this up because this all bled into, my thought process of how we take, that open source idealism and then bring that to other types of organizations. So,
Right.
um, and that is, a little bit where we've come about. And we're very fortunate from a Chariot standpoint to have been able to continue this past 20 years of looking at the different tech as it relates to industry, where our vertical is kind of technology,
Right.
which is kind of strange, but that background of understanding technology has infused not only how I think about forming teams, but also now heading into Journal My Health. And, in between, we've got my PSL stop, as well as Tech Girls, which allowed me to get into, thinking about being an entrepreneur, how to start a company, what's necessary. So Journal My Health is kind of a fusion of the tech side, the soft skill side, and then also a personal journey that I had around a chronic condition. So how am I taking all of that and now creating a SaaS product, a SaaS tool for the healthcare industry
Right.
that is about collecting new data sets that haven't really been collected, so that healthcare companies can use those data sets with existing data sets as we go into thinking about AI, machine learning, and all those things. So that's a lot in a very short period of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. No, Tracy's one for everybody listening. If you're a tech startup or you're a founder, somebody reach out to Tracy. I mean, she's got a wealth of knowledge, so Chariot has been a leading software development company in this region for 22 years. It's amazing. And and Tracy's now a founder. She's building a startup, a SaaS startup. So what inspired you, Tracy, because you have a great story just with Journal My Health. So what inspired you to create Journal My Health, and just explain to the audience, what is Journal My Health?
Well, like many things in my life, things just kind of happen. And you look back and you go, huh, all right, this is how I got to this place. But
Right.
with Journal My Health, this was an idea that I actually had about 15 years ago,
Mhm.
a little bit more, during my journey of trying to figure out how I could capture information about myself
Mhm.
easily to talk to my healthcare team.
Right.
So at that point, um, the the iPhone had come out. I mean,
Yeah.
it just seems like, it might be like 18 years at this point. I'd have to take a look exactly, but here you have a computer in your hand,
Right.
and that is what's so incredible. Like, you have this mini computer in your hand. So we thought about, how do we easily capture the information so that, you'd be able to have this computer with you all the time and put that
Right.
information as things are happening to you, to express what's happening, in between doctor's appointments. Tech girls really started to take off. So that idea went in the back of my head, in a draw, literally in a draw. And during the start of COVID,
Hmm.
everyone had some bench time. We
Right.
had some people on the bench, and I am proud to say that at Chariot, we were able to keep everybody working,
That's great.
maybe not always on paid projects. So our CEO, Mike Rappaport, said, does anyone have an interesting idea? Now's the time. And I literally went
Awesome.
into the draw and said, hey, let me dust, let me dust this off. Is there anything we can do with this idea? Um, so as with many things I do in my life, I kind of dove in without having everything set, a little ass backwards sometimes, but
Right.
we really took the time, though, to research the market of what was going on, in terms of, apps that were out there that were journaling apps. We came to understand that the market, we started off thinking B2C, but
Hmm.
the idea was really, how are we collecting self-reported information, as well as taking information from connected devices that were living on your phone and combining that. And that idea really came from the work that we had been doing at Chariot.
Right.
Also thinking about design in terms of the UI and the user, the user experience, UI, UX. So how are we combining all of those things to make sure that we were thinking about how somebody would consistently put that information in? And then understanding, we were looking from more chronic conditions.
Hmm.
So from a tech standpoint, we were looking at how to design. We went through human center design exercises, but we also had to do the tech startup thing of actually talk to people. So we
Yeah.
were talking to doctors and really beginning to understand, you know, what this product could potentially do and why it was different. So we launched the product for free to see what the market was like,
Hmm.
in April of 2021.
Hmm.
Um, we have in the iOS and the Android side, we have over 20,000 users right now of the free product.
Awesome.
But that's not where, and we've been working with all different types of people with chronic issues and really learning from them how they put information in, because not everybody is going to journal. But what we understood was that data is the new oil,
Sure.
right? I'm sure we've heard that. But a lot of the information that an individual was putting in, their daily health information that I knew from having chronic issue, wasn't getting over to the healthcare industry. And I'm putting that in a huge umbrella.
Right.
So we've been figuring out over the last probably 18 months who values the data sets that we can create. And
Right.
then most importantly, who's willing to pay for that data.
Sure.
So that's been a journey over the last year. So what we have is a SaaS tool that collects individual patients' data,
Hmm.
daily health data, and we're collecting, lots of different data points like symptoms and working diagnosis and medications and treatments and things like that.
Right.
As well as pulling in information from connected devices. We're aggregating that for the individual so that they can go to their doctors and healthcare circle. But more importantly, we're helping a healthcare organization, which can take many different forms,
Right.
collect patient population data,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not being collected. It's not in your EHR. It's not in your insurance records. It's not in social determinants of health records. So having private data sets that they can use and work with existing data sets that they might happen to have. So we're, like any good startup, you got to focus, focus, focus. So we have 3 different areas that we're looking at. One, the most important being maternal health.
Mm.
So started off not thinking about women's health or women's, anything as a product. And here I am back in the women's health game or women's game, whether it's women in tech or women's health. These are all important issues. And we're also looking at clinical research.
Hmm.
And, as we talked earlier, Michael, I think it's really important as we talk about SaaS products that, and this also goes back to open source, right? So this is our 2 lives coming together. The idea of why are you building something that is already built?
Right.
Because you are trying to take out of the hands of whether it's the developer or a business, the idea of if this is not where your expertise is, there's a product that can help you take that load off,
Sure.
that you can concentrate on what you do best. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Um,
So I have tons of questions. I mean, so I get it. You want to be B2B. I think everybody can understand we need to journal our health. I think everybody understands that. The use case of maternal health and clinical health, right? So I get that. So who would you say right now, thinking who's your customer?
right.
Who do you feel is your ICP? And how are you getting in to talk to them? I mean, because it sounds like you're figuring that out. Who's your ICP? Do you have any paid customers right now? Like, how is that working?
So we are getting close to paid customers, which is awesome. Hopefully by this time when this comes out, we'll have a potential pilot in the works in the
Hmm.
maternal health industry. And what we are looking to do is use Journal My Health as part of a tool of a process in the maternal health ecosystem. So we're also looking to work with, to even further narrow down, um, looking at value-based care, Medicaid customers, so insurance companies, community health, and also, providers. So payers and providers,
Hmm.
but we're also looking to work with health information exchanges as the customer. So Those are the people that we're looking at in maternal health. It's a little bit different. Um, and, we'll hopefully when this show comes out, we'll have a little bit more to talk about of like the journey. Clinical research, we are looking for, anyone who's doing clinical research. Now the one thing around the talk about journal my health and everybody should journal, not everyone's going to journal.
Mhm.
So, and that's something that we're going to be helping our customers understand. And that's what we're bringing to the table is the understanding of where this is going to work best.
Mhm.
Not everybody is, if you're totally healthy, unless you're like in a clinical research project, it's going to be hard to want to journal what's happening to you because you don't really need to. You're not trying to solve anything. Um, we're definitely looking at specific targets, and maternal health certainly is one of them
Mhm.
because it's short period of time, episodic. Um, we may be looking at rare diseases in the future. What's interesting about what we're doing is it has a lot of use cases, but we have to get down to who's going to actually pay for the product.
Right. No, absolutely. So yeah, that's kind of bringing me to my next point, which I think is what you're going to answer on is the challenges,
Oh.
right? Like, what are your top, what if like over the history? So you launched this in April 2021.
Right.
You're almost, I saw your 3 years, I think 3-year anniversary. So congratulations there. So what would you say were the top or are the top challenges, and how have you overcome some of them? And then what are still the challenges you're dealing with?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I don't have to overcome, honestly, is because Chariot, we're Journal My Health is a separate company. Chariot has built the product. Chariot is our largest investor. So a lot of companies have to worry about their tech and paying for their tech. This was one way of getting over that hump.
Nice.
So very, very convenient. We've also learned a lot about MVPs as we are working at the Chariot side. Um, so that is easy. I mean, relatively. Um, we're in a really weird funding situation now in terms of like, it's really hard to get funding right now in
Yeah.
general, where
Yeah.
checks used to be written to people who, I have an idea or they like you as a person, they want to see some traction.
Sure.
So once we understood that, the last really 18 months is our way for us to get traction. Now, I have traction with understanding how people use it, but those are not paying customers. So
Right.
now, it's all about the monthly recurring revenue, and working towards that and proving that, there's a market for people who want to buy a SaaS tool like we've created. So I would say like the last 18 months is just, again, understanding who values the data and who is willing to pay for it. Those are the biggest things.
Yeah.
Uh, and, then I believe that once we've got that, you know, at least that journey, then we can figure out the next piece around funding.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so awesome, Tracy. It's cool because you have the partner in Chariot, right? So it's, you have, they're your investor. I totally get it. So you're able to take it pretty methodically, right? And now it's like, okay, let's get paying customers. That's a lot of founders out there don't have that partnership where it's like you're like you got to get customers, like, so you're able to do that. It's great. So this has been a great interview, Tracy. Last question, because there are so many startup founders out there that are trying to figure it out as well, right? So what are your 2 or 3 biggest piece of advice, like that, as a startup founder, if somebody's listening to this right now, like what are 2 or 3 biggest piece of advice you would give them?
I would say number one, I mean, I've been very fortunate to have good people who've been able to help me. So of course, Chariot, I would like to, give a shout out to the Science Center, who I've been
Mm,
through two of the programs that they have in Philly. One is an I-Corps program that's part of National Science Foundation, which they run, and they started their own program called Capital Readiness. That, what they're doing there is amazing. Early support from PACT,
mm,
amazing. Went through Philly Founded from PSL. I mean, that was kind of interesting.
yeah,
That
that's cool.
here I'm in this program, and it's kind of humbling. So get help,
Get help.
ask for help.
Ask for
Number
help.
one,
Love it.
for help. And that means, you're not always going to have something to give, so rely on your network. And then, everyone has an idea. Awesome. But have you spent the time to figure out, does the world need what you have? And then also just be willing to know that you are going to need to make changes, whether it's from your initial idea, to who you think your target is, but you've got to be going out and really testing the market and understanding, again, who values your product, and more importantly, who's willing to pay for your product or
That's awesome.
service.
Tracey, it's been so awesome having you on the show and really, really appreciate your time. So I'm looking forward to following you and continuing to stay in contact. So thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm
Thank you,
looking forward to continuing the journey.
Michael. Thank you.